Saturday Night Live, hosted by Jim Carrey, is over, but we're just getting started here on Saturday Night Live here on post-show recaps. And now here are the two guys who are all filled up on pecan pie, Rob Cesternino and Rich Tackenberg. Rich, how are you?
Good, Rob. I'm good. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you back here talking about Jim Carrey hosting Saturday Night Live on the Halloween episode of SNL. Rich, are you ready for Halloween?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm going to go, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something I would go as. No, of course not.
Which SNL character would you most like to go for Halloween this year?
Well, it would be the most predictable answer, but it would be true, which would be Drunk Uncle.
Drunk Uncle, yes.
I would make a great Drunk Uncle. As my nieces might be able to attest to some Christmas dinners, I would make a great Drunk Uncle.
Yeah. Do you have any goji berries in your Dropbox?
I'll double check, yeah. Pick, 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 pick.
All right, so it's the return of Drunk Uncle tonight, the return of Jim Carrey. I guess if I was going to be an SNL character for Halloween, I'm trying to think of a joke answer, but I think probably Stefan would probably be a pretty solid Halloween costume. Probably 1 year late on that. Trying to think of if there's anybody else that might be a good SNL costume to go with. But what about Jebediah Atkinson?
Ooh, that's a good one. A lot of people wouldn't know who you're doing, but that'd be a good inside one.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of different ways to go. I would actually be slutty Jebediah Atkinson.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, so we're going to talk about the episode with Jim Carrey, musical guest Iggy Izalea. We're going to bring in our musical correspondent, James Keast, from Exclaim Magazine in just a little bit. Of course, we are live here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. If you can ever join us live, it's a lot of fun. We're taking your questions as well in the chat room. To everybody, shout out to everybody joining us live in the chat room on postshowrecaps.com. Also, we are taking your tweets during the show. We'll take them as we go along here. Scott St. Pierre is monitoring Twitter, hashtag PSRecaps. And, of course, on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. Big night tonight on Post Show Recaps. First of 3 live shows that we're doing somewhat in a row. We'll do this show here, and then Antonio Mazzaro and Jeremiah Panhorst are going to take over for the Boardwalk Empire finale podcast. That's going to be at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, and then Josh Wigler and myself will join you live after the West Coast airing of The Walking Dead at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific for the recap of Season 5, Episode 3 of The Walking Dead, Rich. And we had zombies on SNL last night. Walking Dead's everywhere.
I like the crossover. I'm hoping that this week's episode of Walking Dead is better than the zombie episode with Jim Carrey, and I've never seen The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's been solid this year, but no, I can't say the same about Jim Carrey with zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's get into talking about SNL with Jim Carrey, and let's start off that we go back to President Obama, and you hear the dreaded words that you never want to hear to kick off Saturday Night Live. And now C-SPAN returns with more coverage of yada yada yada. The dreaded C-SPAN returns, Rich.
Yeah, you know, it's been a week, year and a half of Obama press conferences. So a really, I think, sort of tough start to the day, to the evening. You know, he did a little recap of how the Ebola virus is not nearly as bad as the other scandals that have happened in his office. Nothing felt particularly timely to me. Nothing felt particularly good. And then we get into sort of the main attraction of the cold opening, which is what everybody's been talking about this week, which is Ron Klain. That's on the tip of everyone's tongue this week, is the Ron Klain appointment. So, good to see Taran Killam get some real attention front and center. Good work by him, but oh boy, this was not funny.
Yeah, there was not a lot of laughs to be had there. And, you know, something that I was just thinking about, you see all these people that these Americans, they get Ebola, and then in the cases of the people that get better, then it seems like right after that, they get these people on a plane to the White House. And I see pictures of like the people that recovered from Ebola like hugging Obama. And I feel like it's very like I understand like the idea of like see how safe it is now, but they're hugging the president. But you have Ebola and you're in quarantine to here's the most powerful person in the whole world. You give them hugs. Like, I feel like it might have been funnier to see like they have to talk Obama into this idea of, okay, Obama, you're going to be meeting with the Ebola survivor.
Rob, get your sketch packet together. I'm submitting to SNL. That would have been way funnier than what they did. That's for sure. Yeah.
I don't know about this. Like, Mr. President, I'm sure it's okay. But it is crazy that these people go from being very sick to all of a sudden, a one-on-one with the president.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Like,
Well,
they
we
won
didn't
the Super
have.
Bowl.
Yeah, we didn't have that much fun here, unfortunately. And this was tough for me because, again, and this having nothing to do with Taran Killam, who I think did a really good job. Just in comedy, it's really hard to play coy and make coy be funny. So the idea is that, we know that he knows nothing about the statistics and he's not a doctor, but he's still trying to coyly pretend that he's still competent for the job, and it's just, boy, coy is tough out of the gate. That's a tough one, and so I think the writing on this really held them back. But this was a tough segment.
More like coy they.
Exactly. Which was then, I will say, very surprised to say, but a sketch is going tough when I'm excited to see Keenan step in. Like, that's when the bar has been low, where I see Keenan and I go, oh, thank God Keenan's here.
Now, I actually goofed on this, that I thought I was like, oh, here comes Charles Wrangle. It was Al Sharpton, right?
Yes, it was Al Sharpton, yeah.
See, I thought I got my Keenan impressions off.
Well, his impressions are so spot on. I'm surprised that you don't catch all the nuances of the yelling loudly into the camera Keenan impressions. So,
yeah.
But I like Al Sharpton. I think this was very funny. I thought they did a good job with this, and I will always say, I am sometimes, as you all know, very critical of Keenan, and then at times I like him. Keenan, his energy is great for cold opens. Keenan is an absolute go-to clutch player, cold open, high energy, big performance. This was really good. So I thought we were at a 0 coming into Al Sharpton. Then a couple of, even him just talking about how everyone should be concerned, including pigeons, rats, and sewer monsters. Like, his energy is just really solid. I like that he talked about how he once got the clap by wearing short shorts at the Port Authority.
That was funny.
Everything about that was really, really good. So tough going into the cold open, but we came out pretty nice.
And I giggled also at when he called him the Ebola Caesar.
Yes, very funny, very funny.
All right, so we go into cold open, and Rich, you had predicted before the SNL hiatus that we were going to come out and Darrell Hammond was going to go back to the drawing board and come out with a whole new delivery.
Yeah, boy, did I get that one wrong. They are doubling down on this. They are really sticking to this. There was, I know on Twitter, and we can always talk about this in comments later. There was a couple of interesting articles about the creation of the actual title sequence from a graphic standpoint, and they talked about how they kind of went for a somber tone, and they wanted it to be more sort of subtle and sort of let the show speak for itself. And I think that to take that into the Darrell Hammond voiceover was terrible. So still I put that in the lost column for me. We gotta, come on, guys, get it together.
Is Darrell Hammond doing coy voiceover?
I think that's the problem. He's being a little coy. Yeah.
All right, so here comes Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey comes out in costume. Not too many people come out in costume for an SNL monologue, but here's Jim Carrey, and he kind of goes right into his bit. No mention of, hey, it's great to be back here in New York, SNL. I'm back here for the X time. I have this movie coming out. He sort of just goes right into his shtick.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, you're right, no sort of promotion of Dumb and Dumber 2, as we were saying. A couple of jokes. I did like the way he started when there was applause, and he said, you might as well stop. It will never be enough. I thought that was a really solid opening line. And then going into the Elvis piece, which was, I'm going to repeat myself here, boy, yikes.
Well, Rich, I thought it was a nice throwback for them to do a rejected idea from the first season of Saturday Night Live for a monologue here in the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, this was well, and this was a weird. Like, I did a little research because I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Clearly, Jim Carrey's been doing an Elvis impression since I think he was on Carson in 1983, and this song "Pecan Pie," apparently, as I did the research, he sang it in a Michael Gondry short video that they did in like 2003 or something for the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind DVD. So nothing was original about this. It was obviously put together, as always, really last minute. And this was really a case of where sometimes SNL does, as does everybody, but SNL tried to do, which is substituting production value for comedy. So in absence of coming up with an idea to make this interesting, they thought, well, let's get an actual choir. Well, let's have a big sign come down at the end. Like, just a lot of kind of misses here. Because at first it started out so odd that I was actually kind of on board, and I knew this thing was going to be a zero when we had our backup singers, Taryn, Shaseer, Cecily, and Keenan come out, and they just look like, oh man, what is this that we're doing now? Okay. And I was like, oh, this has got failure written all over it. So it just went on and on and on and on, and then a little bit of a little assist by my man Bobby at the end. I'll give him that. But
Lemon pie.
Yeah, gotcha. Very. I always love the Bobby drive-by. It was our first true Bobby drive-by in a while. This was so rough that even after we did what was the end of it, and we're getting ready to do the, Iggy Azalea's here, we got a great show. Good old Jim starts it back up again, and it was like it took the band a minute to know, and everybody had that like, oh, okay, like trying to go out on a big note, and this was a clunker for me. Very tough.
Okay, let's take a couple questions about the monologue. Johnny D. Silvera says, I appreciated the honest, impartial monologue. I think that he's talking about in the cold open. That we talked about how SNL tends to be not use a very, very soft touch with Obama. Did you feel like this was SNL at least giving Obama some criticism?
Yeah, I think that they're sort of, now the Obama, approval rating is so low, and there's just so nothing positive to talk about. They sort of can't not take shots at Obama at this point. And unfortunately, I don't find them very funny, not because of political opinions, but I just feel like it's just not, there's nothing to really make fun of here.
Okay, and then also, Bill Simmons, the great, blogger and media mogul, says, Robin Rich, what is going to end up being viewed as a bigger flop, Jim Carrey's monologue or Dumb and Dumber 2? All right, what do you got, Rich?
Well, I will admit something that is very embarrassing to say in the comedy community. I have never seen Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
I don't know it. I've never seen it, but the word that I heard on the inside from someone I know was that the original script for Dumb and Dumber 2 before going into production was very funny. So that's my little insider Hollywood gossip that supposedly the script before they started shooting was very good.
I think it will be a big flop. I think that Elvis will be less of a flop.
Ooh, that says a lot. That's a low bar.
A low bar. Okay. Let's talk about our first commercial parody, and this is going to be the first of 3 times that we're going to do the Lincoln commercial with Matthew McConaughey. We should probably just talk about all 3 here,
sure,
in the interest of time. Rich, so I have to say I've watched these commercials for a while, and I'm like, this is so odd. Why is Matthew McConaughey talking about a Lincoln? And he's talking. Do you know the commercial?
You know what? I think I had seen the commercial on Fast Forward, so I knew that it was a thing. And then after Saturday Night Live, I actually watched the commercial on the internet to actually kind of go, what was this? So the level of accuracy of the parody was surprisingly well. They really kind of did it. I didn't even realize that a lot of the opening lines about sometimes you got to go back and all that stuff were directly from the original version.
Yeah, I think in the real commercial he's like saying like, they say you can't go back, but I think you can. Like, it's like, okay, go back where? Go back to what? But I thought these were so funny, but Taron Killam does such a great Matthew McConaughey, and Jim Carrey does a terrible Matthew McConaughey.
It really took me a second to go, oh, he's doing Matthew McConaughey. Okay, like, really? Now, this is a harder McConaughey to do because you're not doing all right version of McConaughey. You're doing very sort of, introspective, quiet, so there's less sort of vocal hooks. But to be honest, Jim Carrey, and I was always a fan of Jim Carrey, so this is going to sound like I'm just crapping all over Carrey, which I will tonight, but in general, he was a great impressionist, but he was actually always a great physical impressionist. He could contort his face to look like Sammy Davis Jr., but the actual vocal quality of his impressions were always mediocre. They were never particularly great. So this doesn't surprise me this wasn't good. I would much rather have seen Taron do it instead of Jim Carrey. But still, the whole idea of this commercial, of the commercial parody, was very fun. I really liked that.
It was very, very fun. I loved a couple of the lines about when he's talking about how it makes no sense. He's like, well, it doesn't make any sense why you'd buy a Lincoln. And he talks about nobody would want a Lincoln unless you were an Uber driver.
Well, I like what he was talking about, like, you can't go back. Like, sometimes you got to go back. Like, like from winning an Oscar to doing a car commercial.
Yeah.
I thought that was absolutely, because my agent said, like, I would understand it if you did it after the Lincoln Lawyer. That was all very funny. A little bit too much on the snot, the booger jokes, even though watching it a second time, it wasn't as much as I remember it, but I felt like they could really have dialed that down. So this one I thought was just really, really funny.
Yeah, I think that was probably. I think the first one, or maybe the third one, is the best. The second one was talking about how he's talking about how he believed we were a mistake by the Earth, and then he turns around and sees those kids in the back seat.
Yeah, cute. That's all I got to say. It was cute. Definitely cute. Okay, they have all the production value. They're going to make a runner out of it instead of just a one-off because they were out there, whatever. Cute, nothing special.
Yeah. And then also we had, then the final one was we had David Palmer was there talking about Allstate, and then he gets hit by Matthew McConaughey in the car. Funny.
This would have been my favorite. This may have been the worst Keenan impression of all Keenan impressions. Like, I just thought Keenan was doing a guy being a spokesman for an insurance car company, and then it occurred to me he was doing Dennis Haysbert. I was like, it was so terrible. And then the actual joke of it was very funny. The cutaway to Keenan on the windshield holding on was all very funny.
Yeah. Okay. So let's come back to the Carrey family reunion. Okay. And Rich, I thought this was funny, but a couple of interesting things about it. One, that I feel like we've done this before. I can definitely remember with Christopher Walken, they did this. Have they done it with anybody else?
No, they did it. Christopher Walken, I think, was the only other time. It was 2008 that they did it. So exact. It was also set at Sweetwater Steakhouse, which turns out is a real place in Westfield, New Jersey. It's an actual restaurant they took a shot of. So it was the same set. It was the same outfit. So they basically just did it exactly as is.
Okay. I thought this was very funny and interesting, but I thought it's kind of crazy that every single reference, and there were so many that they had to choose from, everything that they reference takes place in Jim Carrey's career between 1994 and 1997. 1998. I mean, so he just had like such a huge run there in the mid-90s, and then really has not been doing that much the last 15 years.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Now, you got to remember that this is, that Jim Carrey, made a very conscious, strategic career choice to try to transition from comedy to drama. After Truman Show was a big hit, he really stopped being known as the comedy guy. He tried to make the Robin Williams transition to dramatic acting, and it didn't really work. Obviously, he did have a couple of successes, a lot of flops. He's only really gone back to embrace comedy since maybe 2011, 2012. So, big dry run in the Jim Carrey comedy repertoire by intention. Maybe in retrospect, not the best choice.
But just all of those things they mentioned, it is kind of crazy that like really within 4 years, he had all of these hits between Ace Ventura and The Mask and the Batman movie that they referenced, the Truman Show. So just so many things.
Oh, certainly, certainly, yeah. So I know you liked the sketch. I definitely liked it less than you did. I didn't dislike it. For me, these kinds of sketches, it's all performance. The premise. There's not even a comedic premise beyond an excuse for us to all do our Jim Carrey impression. So I almost feel like if you had the focus group, you could really watch my interest level. Taran Killam, very good job. I'm really loving it. Suddenly Kyle Mooney isn't quite as good, so I'm really like, it's suddenly my interest level way drops. Beck Bennett was terrible. I'm like way down. Vanessa Bayer talking butt. All right, I'm back up again. So it was a very kind of weird sort of thing for me on this one.
The Bobby Moynihan thing made me laugh. I like that he was green from smoking, and somebody stopped me. I thought that they really used those lines well from The Mask. That was funny. All right, here comes Jeff. I want to make sure I say the right one.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels. I always get Jeff Bridges, Jeff Daniels confused.
Jeff Bridges doing an impression of Jim Carrey would have been hilarious.
We would have got Jeff if we would have saw that.
Now, at the end of our last episode, you had said to me, you thought there would be a Jeff Daniels cameo, and I said, I don't know that there will be. And then I think I was texting you earlier in the day. I was like, oh, I'm totally wrong. I totally feel it. When this sketch started, they could have put in the lower right-hand corner the Jeff Daniels countdown clock of when Jeff Daniels is going to show up, just ticking down because it was so obvious. And I actually mean that in a good way, not in a bad way. So we're seeing Jay Farrow doing this weird thing with the cable guy, Cecily Strong, who actually did a really fun impression of Fire Marshal Bill, and it was sad that the audience had almost no reaction to it because they're too young to know who Fire Marshal Bill is. And then we get Jeff Daniels. We get, writing-wise, a lot of meta jokes about, how annoying co-stars can be and if you have to do a cameo. But I thought Jeff Daniels was in it 100%. He had a huge amount of fun with it. They were really fun together, so I really liked it.
Jeff Daniels, they did it right one time. That's it. Boom.
Oh, rich rule of cameos.
They nailed it.
Exactly. Because if Jeff Daniels had come out in the monologue to talk to Elvis, then who the F would care that he comes up dressed as Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber? Like, this was exactly how you're supposed to do it, which proves that finally the crew of SNL is listening to this podcast.
Finally.
That is the only explanation.
Shout out to all the writers at Saturday Night Live. Okay, yeah. Let's go to the graveyard, and let's go catch up with Paul and Phil.
This is another sketch that for me, the first 45 seconds, I was up to my neck in on this sketch. I was loving everything about this sketch, and including the intro of Paul and Phil. I just thought this was such a fun sketch, and then it just went the same beat over and over and over again, and it lost me really, really early.
I feel like the Jim Carrey, Taran Killam bromance is an underreported story here. I feel like they really hit it off, those two.
Oh, we'll talk about the good nights, Rob. We're going to get to that when we get to the good nights. Absolutely. There's something there to talk about. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So Paul and Phil, they started to lose your interest?
Yeah, it was just a little repetitive, and the one thing that did really make me laugh at, because I thought Bobby and Kate as the Tombstones were really fun. Again, Bobby was really hitting on all cylinders this week. It was sort of a return to form for Bobby. But I love the idea that, Paul and Phil are not scary, even though you've got the Grim Reaper and the Tombstones talking, and these are just two schmoes. How is a tree supposed to be scary?
Talking tree is scary, Rich.
Yeah, I don't know. More scary than talking ghosts from the Midwest? I don't know. That was an odd one that they couldn't come up with a scarier costume for Keenan to be in.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. Uh, but you know, Keenan. My favorite Keenan is angry Keenan. Just going back to like last season when we
Yes.
did the game show Arcade Fire, a new cast member. When he yells at Paul and Phil, he's like, "No, no!"
Yes.
It really did crack me up.
Yes, no, that was good. That was good. So I wouldn't say that I dislike this sketch. I just I would love to have seen this a lot tighter. In a way, a lot less of Paul and Phil in length of each beat would have made the repetition of Paul and Phil a lot more funnier. But again, I can't really complain on this one. It was fun, not something that I'll ever go back to again.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go to is that the last sketch before we get some music?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Azalea.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's bring in our musical correspondent James, who is going to tell us everything about Iggy Azalea. And James, I want to start off by talking about that the format was a little different here. That Iggy Azalea did her big songs she front-loaded the musical performance, James.
She seemed to pack extra juice into the first half, that's for sure.
Top-heavy Iggy Azalea.
Yeah, I
It's
think
usually
it was
not
a
what people say
combination
about Iggy Azalea, by the way, having seen her outfit.
There you go. I set you up for that one.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. All right. So, James, tell us what you thought about Iggy's performance, starting with the first performance.
Well, I think the producer said, well, you have to do fancy. And she said, but I don't want to do fancy because Rita Ora's here and she wants to sing on the Black Widow song. And so this was the compromise, that they would do this odd sort of mashup. That was, in fact, Rita Ora, the blonde, who came in partway through for the second half. Is it a medley if it's only... I don't know if that qualifies as a medley.
Rich, what's the color for medley?
But Rita for the second half.
Yeah, I felt like this was a solo duet more than a medley.
I honestly had to look up who Rita Ora is. I mean, okay. I know she's famous and I know who she is, but I actually had to look up why she's famous. She's a British singer. I thought she was maybe an actor. I think she's also an actor, but she had like 5 #1 hits in the UK in the last 18 months.
Okay, what was your take on Iggy's performance, though?
I thought she was fine. There were some weird sound problems, and vocally she was really low, which is sort of unusual for a rapper because you want to actually hear the words. I thought she got a little buried in the vocals, and I think that it's sometimes difficult to tell who's singing live and who's not on Saturday Night Live, and I think in the second song there were some weird things with the backing vocals that seemed like maybe a little conflict. I don't want to say anyone's lip syncing, but it's common in scenarios like this to perform with what they call a vocal assist, which is sort of partly lip syncing, but it's basically like there's a low version of your vocal playing under your vocals, so if you don't quite nail everything, it's there to sort of help you out a little bit. But I thought even given that vocally I couldn't really hear her all that well, I may have been distracted by the High School Musical performance going on around her.
All right,
and I mean the High School Musical, the movie.
Yeah, you heard it here first. James says maybe lip syncing for Iggy Azalea on Saturday Night Live.
I think the backup singer on the second song was almost certainly lip syncing.
Well, I will say as a non-musical guy, to see this woman running around, jumping up and down, and singing without nary a breath in her voice, I'm going to go lip sync.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you know.
Now, you said High School Musical. I got to say, with that fence behind her and the smoke effects and the dance and the headset that she had, I actually thought maybe Iggy Azalea is a magician and she's going to make a tiger appear at the end of the routine. That would have been good Saturday Night Live. That
would have been good. Maybe if they turned the fence around and there was something behind it or something. That would have been fun.
That's a show. That's a show. Come on, guys, bring the show.
All right, James, tell us about Iggy's second performance.
So the second one is called Beg For It. It's her new single. Another, whatever. It's fine. I thought it was odd that everything was sort of equally mid-tempo. she has a lot of like really high energy songs and stuff, and I thought we might get, a higher energy one and then maybe a balladier one, but they were largely the same in terms of tone and tempo, and then they both had the backup singer. The backup singer on the second song, or the guest vocalist on the second song, is a Danish singer whose name I don't know how to pronounce. It's M-O, but it's O with a slash through it, and I don't know if that's Mu or Ma.
Who knows?
My Danish
we can only speculate. All right.
So any listeners in the chat room, you can let us know phonetically how to pronounce me.
James, who was superior on SNL this season, Ariana Grande or Iggy Azalea?
I have to say, I think it was Ariana.
Whoa!
I know.
All right.
Although I was very excited to see any rap act at all on Saturday Night Live, and I recognize that this is a little bit rare, so I wanted to see actually how rare it is. So I went back the last 5 years of musical guests, so 22 episodes a season. That's a +5 so far this year. That's about 125 opportunities for musical guests in the last 5+ years. Out of those 125, how many times do you think it was a hip-hop act?
5.
I'll go 9.
It was actually 11.
Oh, Rich got it.
But 3 of them were repeats. Drake twice, Eminem twice, Kanye twice, Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, and
that should count as 2.
and Kendrick Lamar. But that is, considering that hip-hop is the most popular music in North America and probably the most popular music in the world, and the only acts they've had on in the last 5 years are basically the Beatles and the Rolling Stones of hip-hop, like the very, very, very top tier. I don't know what that says about Iggy Azalea, or if it just speaks worse for, Wiz Khalifa or Waka Flocka Flame or any of the, considering the level of indie rock acts that they will put on the show who haven't even put out a record yet, the fact that they are not embracing the hip-hop community seems a little bit glaring.
As far as Iggy Azalea sort of representing the world of hard-hitting hip-hop, I will say I started to fall asleep during the second performance, and when I woke up, I thought I was watching the top 20 dancers on So You Think You Can Dance. So not exactly really hitting the street level of hip-hop and urban.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
All right, James, thank you so much. Follow James on Twitter. He's at @ExclaimEditor, and we'll be back to talk about Prince. I know, James, you're pumped up for Prince, right?
I'm super pumped for Prince.
Chris Rock and Prince next week. All right, so we'll see what Prince pulls out of his purple hat next week, James.
All right, see you then.
All right, thanks so much, buddy. Bye. Okay, Rich, let's jump back into Weekend Update.
Oh, let's do that. I got it right out of the bat for this one, because I don't think this was overall a fantastic show by any means, but I thought this was clearly the best Weekend Update of the season. I thought that this was in general hitting on all fronts. I thought good jokes. Colin Jost, top of the segment, felt very confident. Michael Che doing his little run about how black people are treated like Ebola had sort of let go of that nervous laughter and was kind of settling into his skin a little bit. And then 2 really good guests, and we were out. So big thumbs up for me on this Weekend Update. This segment was the MVP of the night for me.
Did the Vanessa Bayer thing work for you?
Loved it. Oh, did I love it. I thought it would. My wife and I could not stop laughing.
Yeah. Why did you like it so much? Because of Vanessa's performance or because of Michael's reaction?
Because I watch these stupid shows. Because I am the demo. Daisy Rose, the character she played, she could have dated Ted Mosby on How I Met Your Mother, and it would have been seamlessly integrated into the show. I thought, and I will say though, and I thought this was like the perfect Vanessa Bayer character. I don't know that Vanessa Bayer has had a better character than this for her and who she is. I thought this was excellent, and I will say that this is the first time I can say that something Michael Che did was, in my opinion, better than not only how Colin would have handled it or Cecily would have handled it, but even better than Seth Meyers. If this was Seth Meyers, it would have been that kind of jokey, I met you 70 seconds ago, brr, brr, brr. And Michael Che had a nice kind of annoyed, dismissive, like, I met you 70 seconds ago, which really, really made this work. So, huge win for me. I've seen every episode of this fictitious show already, and I would continue to TiVo it if it were on.
What's your favorite of those shows?
I mean, I'll always go down as a How I Met Your Mother fan. For all of the different ones that are on now, How I Met Your Mother, as clunky as it was still my favorite sort of romance rom-com.
Yeah, I watched Marry Me this week. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen a couple I've sampled, but I don't really have a strong opinion of anything yet.
Okay, then let's talk about the return of Drunk Uncle here. And Rich, I have to say, I was a little disappointed with the Drunk Uncle.
See, again, I'm a hit and miss with Drunk Uncle. Drunk Uncle was really good for a long time, and then it got overdone, and then it's sort of been hit and miss. I would say for me, this was a really, like, a solid B Drunk Uncle, which for me was great. First of all, we haven't seen it since last year. We saw it in May when Charlize Theron was hosting, so it's been a little bit. But just, I thought the beginning, when he comes out and sees Michael Che, and there's that whole awkward, like, 5th floor, please, and then moves over, like,
that
just
was great.
That was really funny. And then I thought it was just generally fun. I loved, you said that, is this GoPro farm to table? Again, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it yet again. I'm a broken record here. These kinds of pieces are the Mad Libs of Saturday Night Live. It's the same sketch, and they just literally, they could have a template in Word or a Google Doc that's a form that says put in a piece of technology and then put in an eco-conscious, reference, and that's your first thing. And that, like, it literally is that sort of Mad Libby, but a lot of it I just found really funny. So I liked it, although I will say the ending was a weird sort of clunker ending. He was going to tell a joke. What's black and white, red all over? And then Colin says a newspaper. He goes, oh, I was going to say something super racist. I was really shocked that they ended on that. That was a real odd choice.
That's not even a joke.
Yes, yeah. It felt like they had something that at the last minute they decided to cut, and they couldn't come up with anything better, and that was like the holding joke. They were thinking they were going to come up with something better, and they never did.
I just like to always look up the hashtag Drunk Uncle on Twitter afterwards and see what lines people particularly liked. When he asked the girl, hey, little girl, what are you for this year? Disappointing your father.
Yeah.
So I'm not a jack of all lanterns, okay?
Yeah. Oh. I thought that was all very funny. And it didn't even, that's the segment that he does every time. It didn't even make sense on this one. Why was he going, I'm not a jack of all lanterns, I'm not a boot, like all of it. It didn't even make sense. So silly.
Okay. All right. So let's move on from Drunk Uncle, and let's talk about our next sketch. He also did the Caribbean Queen quite a bit also.
That I could have done without. That was not my favorite pull. Usually he's singing something right into the glass. He's usually got that, I'm singing something and then a racist comment, and we didn't get much of that, so it wasn't as good there.
What's your better random singing, Drunk Uncle or Kate McKinnon during the break in Good Morning Miami?
Oh, a Drunk Uncle for me. Anytime you're getting in a weirdly racist old white guy shot, it's always going to make me laugh.
Okay, so let's talk about Secret Billionaire.
Yeah, not much to say on this one. I thought it would have made much more sense if this was the end of the show. This was, it's an interesting reality show of the four people who's really a billionaire and who's not, and it was really a kind of just a performance piece for Jim Carrey to play this odd, eccentric guy. The lines themselves, I thought, were really well written and really fun about all the things, how he rigged an election in Panama because he had a lot of money in bananas futures, and the whole thing about the Malaysian airplane, and then the whole weird, crazy run at the end about 250 guys named Dennis in an airplane hangar and one guy named Brian. So it was all really fun, but I don't know that I wouldn't say it worked for me. I thought it was fine, but I would never watch this. I didn't get through it a second time. I'll say that.
Yeah, I just felt like there was no payoff.
Yeah.
Like, how does she not pick a guy by the end of this and then find out who was the secret billionaire?
Yeah, I will give supporting credit to the writers and Cecily Strong. The intentionally scripted feeling lines of our reality show Bachelorette were very good, very accurate to these kinds of dating shows. And I loved Bobby Moynihan wearing like the three-piece suit and then the hoodie with the sweatshirt hood out the back. That visual was better than anything else for me.
Okay. All right, so yeah, I did not love the Secret Millionaire. Now let's talk about ghosts, fact or fiction. And we didn't say it at the top of the show, but I guess this is a good time to mention Leslie Jones. Welcome to the Featured Players.
Yes, very, very happy to have her. We think we even talked about this in the Bill Hader episode, that she was effectively a featured player last week. I think she had more screen time than Kyle Mooney did last week. So love that she got the nod up. Although for this sketch, I feel like, and I couldn't point to it, but I feel like we've seen this sketch before in some other version.
Yeah, it's a good point. This sketch about the ghost thing. I don't know. I just felt like it did not work for me. This sketch, like I kept expecting it to go somewhere, and I don't really get what the ultimate joke was. I feel like that the Leslie Jones reaction was like the normal person reaction of going into a situation like this. That would be me if I went to the haunted house.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to have Leslie Jones. But I don't know that I necessarily thought it was particularly great for me.
Yes, and the other crazy thing is that Darrell Hammond had to go back and record a Leslie Jones introduction, and same thing. Didn't say, you know what? Give me another shot at this.
Come on, while I'm here, let me just give a pass on this one.
While I'm in the booth, give me another crack at this.
I read this as a statistic. I can't prove that this is true, but it has to be because I can't think of it. Adding Leslie Jones to the cast makes for the first time in the 40-year history of SNL that we have 5 black cast members on the show. So that's a very cool change of direction for the show.
Okay. Almost as many hip-hop acts in the last 5 years.
Exactly.
Getting there. Okay. Let's talk about the zombie apocalypse sketch, which I really did not care for. Well, we'll talk about it quickly because I feel like we already have done this sketch I believe it was during when Kevin Hart hosted.
Yeah, we did. I think we did it. We definitely did a Walking Dead sketch, and I think it was definitely better. I think it was more specific to The Walking Dead about killing zombies or how to kill zombies or something like that. So yeah, this was a really tough. It was a Jim Carrey performance piece, but the writing didn't support it, and I think maybe he or the writers thought they would get more mileage out of just watching him hit Pete Davidson with a baseball bat over and over again.
Yeah, the Kevin Hart sketch was actually a Walking Dead sketch. They were the Walking Dead characters, and Kevin Hart was somebody who had been bitten by a zombie, but he was trying to say he was okay, but then he kept becoming increasingly more like the zombie. This was almost the same exact thing, except it was a guy and his, trying to tell them that his brother wasn't a zombie. But it was like almost the same idea of somebody trying to convince somebody, "Hey, I'm okay during the zombie apocalypse," and then them saying like, "I don't think so. I don't know."
Yeah, I'd say this was just a pass. This is if I could pass on talking about a sketch, this is the one. Just kind of a 0 for me.
Okay. Brian Williams got a random shot during this episode too.
Yeah, very odd, very odd.
Poor Brian Williams. All right, let's talk about the Chandelier sketch, Rich.
Yes, let's talk about this sketch. I have watched this sketch 3 times, and I can't decide if I love it or I hate it, and I vacillate 18 times per sketch each time I watch the sketch.
Okay, well, talk us through. What are the pros and the cons? What do you like about it?
I like the format of it. I liked a lot of the. I mean, clearly the game of this is we're going to watch Kate McKinnon and we're going to watch Jim Carrey jump around like idiots doing the Sia Chandelier video. So first up, of course, I had never seen the Sia Chandelier video. So, but here's the like afterwards, I'm like, well, let me go see what it is. Like, what am I missing? Because I'm watching it, Grandpa Tackenberg, drunk uncle in Studio City, thinking, why would they do a parody of this? No one has seen this video. I go look on YouTube. The one main video has 264 million views.
Right.
I am clearly in the minority. This is exactly what the show should be making fun of, not the crap that I'm watching, because this is the pulse of what the kids are watching. So good on them for doing it. The dancing around I thought was it got old quick for me, although I am a sucker for that breaking the fourth wall, coming out into the audience. I love that they go onto the set of a previous sketch, the Halloween cemetery sketch. We get a little bit of a Lorne Michaels throw in there. So I'm a sucker when they break that down for me and we get to see that cool, like, what is this? So very weird, very fun. But then the final thing I kind of put in the negative column, as much as I wanted to love watching Kate McKinnon and Jim Carrey, I just felt every year of Jim Carrey's 52 years of age in this sketch. And I just, for me, felt like, oh, you're so feeling 52. What are you doing? If you want to be Elvis, that's fine. You want to be a demon, that's fine. But running around like an idiot was great when you were 25, 35, maybe 45. It's retro. 52. It just felt like I cringed more than I laughed.
You felt like Jim Carrey was too old.
Little too old to do this. To do this specifically. Yes.
Well,
what did you think? That's my rant. What did you think?
At first I was not liking it, and then when they ran off the stage, I did like it. I thought it was interesting, and then I watched the video, and then I said, okay, well now I see what they're going for there. I also thought some of the stuff at the beginning of the sketch was kind of funny, and
yes.
When they said that Aidy Bryant was a meatball, yes. And she's like, actually, I'm not wearing a costume.
And I liked when she says to Shashir, oh, are you Beyonce, or I can't remember who it was Beyonce or whoever, Rihanna. It's like, no, I'm Vanna White. I thought that was such a great comment on race, very, very funny. So that a couple of jokes at the beginning was cute, and then even the ending that they give it to her, to Aidy Bryant, was a nice little bow on that.
Yeah. It was not a big night for Aidy Bryant.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Quiet night for Aidy Bryant. So where do you land on the Chandelier sketch?
I'm giving it the thumbs up. I'm putting this in the win category. I think anytime you're gonna get that weird and that fun, I'll call it a win. I like this sketch.
Okay, let's take just a couple of comments from you guys about the Chandelier sketch. Real BG Low says, while I found the Chandelier sketch funny because I had seen the music video prior to the episode, don't you think this was a reference probably not a whole lot of people understood? Off of that, did it matter, or were their performances that funny on their own?
Well, as I said, I think 264 million views. Clearly, somebody was watching this. So I'm going to say I think that even though I didn't get it, and clearly neither did us as a group here, very good call on them.
Okay. And let's do one more about this from Plasby, Kate McKinnon, and the Chandelier sketch. Holy effing S. This was phenomenal. Miss McKinnon giving us a reminder why she was nominated for an Emmy. Off you go, Cecily. I'm in every sketch strong. Oh, somebody's throwing shade at Cecily in favor of Kate McKinnon.
Very interesting. I mean, I will say, what a fan I am of Kate McKinnon, and I am dumbfounded how sidelined she is this season. I would say before coming into the sketch, I think Pete Davidson had more screen time than she did. So a really, really tough season for her. And this would absolutely agree with the comment that this was a return to form of why we love her so much.
All right, then they went back to Iggy Azalea, and then we came in for the 12:55 sketch from Joff's Halloween Emporium, Rich.
Again, this is another sketch that, while it was completely fresh and original, it felt like I've seen it before. Maybe it was just one too many Jim Carrey over-the-top characters or something. I actually, watching it a second time, was surprised how much I liked Cecily and Vanessa in this sketch. Like, I feel like the only time we see them working together is when they're ex-porn stars trying to do a commercial.
Yeah,
so
in this time slot.
In this time slot. So to see them doing something different and actually just being so laissez-faire and so bored by Jeff and all his demon antics was cute, but I kind of wanted to get out.
I did. I like this one. I like that they just like sort of like nonchalantly just like gave the setup about how Joff has been possessed by a demon, and then Joff comes in and they're just like totally like he's like their annoying boss. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take one question about Joff and the Halloween Emporium. Real BG Low. Last sketch confused me so much. Was it meant to be a nod to the We're Not Porn Stars Anymore sketches? Because it really felt like it. It really was almost the same exact format as that. Like, I wonder if it would have been better if it was the porn stars and they worked for a demon.
That might have been a little bit more interesting, definitely. Yeah.
Joff's Halloween Emporium. I like that, but Joff is still like pushing like the product, like
yes,
about the Hunger Games costumes.
And I like Joff's clipboard. I like the clipboard made me laugh both times I watched it. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we know you have access to hell. We got it. I thought I was amused for 12:55. All right, yeah. Rich. The goodbyes. All right, you keyed on to something.
Oh, yes.
What'd you pick up on?
Okay, and now I will say on the LA feed, it cut off very early. I had to go back to Hulu Plus to watch the whole thing. But even fans who saw The Good Night, it seemed like for whatever production value, they decided to rip up part of the Good Night stage, home base as we call it, and dig a moat. And there was a moat horizontal on the stage, and you had Jim Carrey and Iggy Azalea and Jeff Daniels on one side of the moat, and you had the entire 17 members of the cast on the other side of the moat. Like, I think maybe the cast thought that Jim Carrey has Ebola or something, because there couldn't have been more distance between all of them. And so then going back and watching the actual Good Nights in their length and their extended run, it was very interesting that nobody came up to Jim Carrey. At one point, Jim Carrey he sees Bobby Moynihan, and Bobby Moynihan gives them this pat on the back that I would give like an old coworker that I run into at Starbucks when I'm running late for work, and like, hey, you, good to see you, gotta go kind of thing. It was very awkward. Only he gave a very, very big hug to Taran Killam, like a bear hug to Taran Killam, who I think he must have bonded with. So I'm going to be very interested if any rumors come out. Obviously, we're not seeing anything on Twitter, but maybe in Reddit or something. I'm wondering if Jim Carrey was a pain in the ass or if he was controlling. It was very, very atypical, the dynamics on that home base at the end of the show last night.
That's interesting because, I mean, this is Jim Carrey's, third time hosting the show?
Third time hosting. Now, again, the last time he hosted was 2011, so a lot of the core cast, I don't even know if they were necessarily there yet, some of the newer people, and clearly he hosted in 96, which is totally different. But I would say up to this moment in the show, I would not have guessed there was any weirdness going on with Jim Carrey because he seemed like everyone was having fun, seemed like the sketches were going well. Watching it again a second time, knowing that I had seen this, that last sketch with Cecily and Vanessa felt a little prescient, felt a little like maybe there's something going on there, that they were really annoyed by him on some level. I don't know.
Rich, the ratings are in for Saturday Night Live last night. Now, of course, the Bill Hader episode got some press. I believe it was a series low for Saturday Night Live in the 40-year history of SNL, the Bill Hader ratings. But with Jim Carrey, according to Zap To It, highest ratings since April.
Which, again, not a big number to come back from. I was so crazy, so annoyed. I don't know if you guys, a lot of the articles about the Bill Hader episode, like it was the lowest in the history. So looking at the episode and what was done in the episode, why was it so low rated given this sketch and that sketch? And I wanted to scream because I'm like, but if it was low rated, nobody saw it to not like what they saw. So the fact that it was low rated had more to do with the promotion of the episode, and had probably more to do with Sarah Silverman and with Chris Pratt's episodes, which were not great episodes. So I think we were kind of on a low run. I think probably a lot of our SNL fan base heard, maybe if they didn't watch it, they heard Bill Hader was actually a pretty good episode. Oh, that's right, and then tuned in for Jim Carrey. So I think Bill gets a little bit of a snub here that's not deserved.
Well, I think it's a little deserved in that, not that he did a bad job, but in that I think that the big name guest hosts like bring in their own following, whereas the Bill Hader following is all already watching Saturday Night Live, so no new fans are coming into the mix. It's like he's really just appealing to the base, and there's nobody who wasn't watching SNL that night who's tuning in to say, oh, I got to see Bill Hader.
Yeah, although I will say, and
Hosier, I think, also didn't do him any favors.
That absolutely does not help. Definitely, I do think we're looking at ratings this week a little bit. It seems like some of the biggest shows of the last few years are usually the big alumni episodes. So you have Jimmy Fallon come back. You have like some of the bigger alumni of the show generally gets your big spikes. And as much as we all love Bill Hader on the show, looking at his career post SNL, clearly he's not one of the all-star alums yet. So that doesn't surprise me.
Okay, let's do a question or two and wrap this up. Okay, Bill Simmons, Robin Rich, at this point, do you believe Michael Shea is doing a better job than Colin Jost on Weekend Update?
I'd say it's neck and neck for me. I'd say both for my. I think I would actually agree, but I'll be interested to see what they do with that. I don't know. What did you think?
I think that Colin Jost is not doing so great anymore. I feel like the things that I'm enjoying on Weekend Update are pretty much all the Michael Shea stuff. The Colin Jost stuff is like, it's like he's okay, he's serviceable, but I really don't feel like he's knocking anything out of the park.
Well, I will say I did think, again, the first 5 or 6 jokes that were all Ebola-related about the guy in New York going bowling and jogging, and then I thought in general he did a nice little run on that. So I think he is getting better. I don't know that I'd say he's a breakout by any means, but I thought in general he did a nice job there.
I liked when he said that Red Bull is worse for you than Ebola, though. I did smile at that.
Yes.
And one last question, DJ MCC93. I didn't really watch Chris Rock when he was on SNL. Does he have any notable characters? Ooh, predictions on the Chris Rock podcast. Will we see, Rich, a Nat X?
Well, that's as soon as I saw the question, I'm like, well, the only variable here would be Nat X, and I would say I would be very surprised if we do see a Nat X. It would be such an old school throwback. Because it was never a popular character when he was on the show. So I'll be very interested to see. I would love to see Nat X come by, which was, if you remember, it was the only 15-minute talk show. Why? Because the man won't give a black man half an hour. I did love that sketch. It was very funny.
Yes. He also used to have a recurring sketch with Chris Farley where they were also sort of like talk show hosts, right?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
And one of them was wearing like the 8-ball jacket, I remember. But I can't think of what that was called. But obviously you can't do that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that he did that was notable on SNL.
I mean, he didn't do much. I mean, that's really the truth of it. He didn't really last very long on the show.
Yeah. Well, that'll be very fun. And is he promoting anything?
Yeah, he's got a new movie out that he wrote and directed that I hear is actually supposed to be really good. Can I pull it? And I don't see it now. Filmography.
Top
Top five.
top 5. Okay.
Top five, which I hear, or maybe he didn't write it. Oh no, he did. He wrote and directed it, which I've heard in general is supposed to be really good. So I'm sure that's why he's promoting it.
Okay.
I don't know how it will be. I don't have high expectations for. I think we'll have a great monologue, and then other than that, I don't know how Chris Rock will play in this world of doing sketches again many moons later. So jury TBD on this one.
Okay. We will see exactly what happens there when we come back next week with Chris Rock and musical guest Prince on the SNL podcast, right? So, Rich, I just want to again thank you again for being here with us on the SNL recap.
Love it. Love being here. Very excited. This was a great time. The last hour and 3 minutes, a dream come true, Rob. An absolute dream come true.
Yeah. Stay on your side of the moat, please.
Thank you. Yes.
I want to thank Scott St. Pierre doing all the comments. James Keese talking about the music. Thank you. I want to thank Chris Berger in the chat room. Lots of great questions. Johnny DeSilvera, Real BG Low, Bill Simmons. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. Tyler.
A shout out to Pete and Lexi for not barking during the podcast. Thank you guys. Love you. Love you.
Right,
Go to bed.
We'll be back. We'll be back next week. Chris Rock and Prince, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Woo!